Hi, everybody. Thank you for your welcoming hi. Let me thank all the organizers of this day. They have done a great job, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to be here. So thank you for all the time that you may have spent on this. So I'm Enrico Carlesso, and most of the time I'm an idiot. And actually, I've been a software developer, I would say, for the past 10 years of my life. I'm not really, let's say, a really expert or experienced speaker, so I would like to apologize in advance for that. So you may ask, why are you having a talk? Well, when I found out that it was the RubyDay, I say, what's the thing that really changes my life when it comes to working in Ruby? And I say that even if I really don't like too much to speaking on a public, I would like to share with you the thing we are going to speak about, that is pride, that really changes the way I work and saved me really tons of time. So, just 2 seconds to speak on the company I'm working with a little sad face. Actually, I have a couple of colleagues down there, some around. It's Coders51. It's a company based in Bologna, which I've been working for the past 2 years, I would say. Unfortunately, our journey has come to the end, but it has been a real pleasure to work with you guys. So, debugging. It's very interesting that this talk comes right after the one from Christophe, because they share a lot of the purpose of the talk. So, as you say, you spend most of the time reading the code than to write the code. That's because somehow you are debugging your code. All right, you write something, you don't know if it's going to work. You maybe are going to work on code of somewhere else, so you really don't know what you're doing, so you have to read your code, you need to understand it, and it's really a long process. So typically, the debugging process is this one, all right? So you have to find an exception. Hopefully you will have all the stack trace. You will need to find the relevant line. Well, we can use the trace cause gem from Christophe, but you know, if you don't know it, you rely on the stack trace. You open your editor, you try to find the right line, the right point, start adding some puts to check, and all the people that came from languages that are now scripted languages are used to that. I've seen thousands of outputs in C and C++ code. Then you run your code. We don't need to compile at least. You check for the output, you make some changes, hoping for the good, you rerun your code, and if you're very, very, very lucky, you have solved the bug, so you can move forward, and maybe you can forget there your puts, so it will be a mess in really no time. It often happens when you work in a corporate environment that you take software that is not open source, so the developer doesn't try to keep the code as good as they would do if it would be open source, so you're likely to find like hundreds of puts all around. And if you didn't spot the bug at this time, it will start from the point 3. So again, you iterate and go ahead. And this is where most of the developers actually spend their time when they work. So maybe you're not going through a bug or an exception, but there's something that is not working the right way, so you go through and through. So we are working in Ruby, it's the RubyDay, so we can start to think. Ruby is a scripting language, all right? It doesn't need to be compiled. It gets run exactly as it is written. It has a great introspection. It has a great reflection, meaning that you can check the object live when you are working with that, and then you can check the program itself while it's running. And it's also very, very good for metaprogramming. So maybe someone has started to put the piece together and say, maybe we can do something better in Ruby. And here comes pry. I apologize that we call it pry or pre indifferently, because in Italy we used to call it pre. But pry starts as a REPL substitution for IRB in Ruby that many of you use. Just a question. How many of you use Ruby on Rails? How many of you use Ruby but not using Ruby on Rails? All right. Okay. So whenever you open IRB or you open a Rails console, most of the times you're using IRB, which is the default Ruby console, and you can play around with the code. So basically, oh right, the headline for the pre is a powerful alternative to the standard IRB shell for Ruby. It features syntax highlighting, a flexible plugin architecture. We will get on this later. And runtime invocation and source and document browsing. That looks really promising, so let's dive in deeper. So what is a REPL? Basically, a REPL is an acronym that stands for read, evaluate, print, and loop. I guess that most of you are pretty common about this concept. This is the simplest possible REPL you can write in Ruby. And Pry has started exactly like that. The first release of the first commit was like 75 lines. And the core of the REPL was exactly this one. So you read the line, you evaluate that. Eval is the magic embed keyword that all interpreted language has. That is really bad, but it's really good when you get to this kind of stuff. Then you push the output, and then you loop, and again. So why pre is so outstanding comparing to IRB or other alternatives? As they say, we have syntax highlighting. We have tab completion that is really, really useful. If you're like me, you're very lazy, you don't like to type. Mostly you hit the tab key on your keyboard is the one that you use more. And then you have the underscore and the double underscore local variables in Pry that lets you simply allows you to access the last and the one before output of the REPL. But not that. You have these four things really changed the way I debug or I try to fix code. So right inside the Pry console, you're able to show the documentation of a method or of a class or whatever. But most important, you can show the source of a specific method, because most of the time we use methods or objects that are inside our project. Most of the times we don't document them because we are lazy. And so we hope that the Ruby is a very nice language to be read. So most of the code is self-explaining. And then you have these two things that whoever, I guess all of you ever use shell in your life. So you know they come from the shell environment. So ls simply allows you to list, that is what it stands for, all the local variables you have in the context you are in that moment, and all the method that you have available in the point where you are in the stack trace of your program. And it's like calling methods, right, on IRB, more or less. Well, CD is another really, really interesting feature that allows you to move, like you move in a Unix file system inside the directory, you move inside an object. So let's say if you have an instance of the user model, okay, you can CD into that, and you can ls to have access to all the methods you have, and most of that, because you are inside the object itself, you are able to call private methods without having to some workaround like send or stuff like that. But another really nice feature that Pry provides is edit. So that means that almost anywhere, unless you need to deal with the C binding of some library in Ruby, you can just call edit and specify a method or a class or the instance of the object you're working with. And this will open you your favorite editor exactly in the file you need and in the method itself it you specify. can be very useful when you have to work with code that is not yours, that maybe the code for a single object is spawned across a larger number of files. And then we have binding.pry. So pry itself as a nearby replacement is very nice, but it's not the real game changer here. So binding.pry, at least for me, it has been. All right, you can open any Ruby code you have and put this single line, supposing you're using pry in your gem file or you require it, and whenever your code goes through that line, it will open a pry shell exactly in that point. That means that you will have access to all the context, and that is really interesting, especially regarding what Crystal was saying, that you may need the context when you're trying to solve a problem. Which better context may you have than the real data that is going through your application? All right, so let's say you have a controller in Rails that is doing something strange. You just open your controller, you put binding.pry there, and you refresh your browser, and you will have the REPL right there, ready for you to check the data that is going through. This can really help you when it comes to debugging and try to understand what is going on, because you don't have to wonder what happened when the data passes there, because you have the data. All right. So, but what can we do whenever we have our REPL open there? As we say, we can access to all the variables at the present state. I mean, exactly in that call. Like if if you remove your binding.pry, your application will go through the process. So it's really the real and actual data. Then you can see the documentation, the source, so you can move around to see what's going on. Then there are a couple of things we will see also later, but most important, where am I? So when you are looking for stuff, you forget what you was trying to do, or where am I will print you the surrounding of the file where you put your binding.pry. Then you have another nice thing that is play. Play allows you to run a line without, whatever of you have ever used the GNU debugger, you have next, pry, and stuff like that. You can use next also in pry, but that will move the context forward. While with play, you can just copy and paste the line and run it there. So you don't have to copy and paste or run it. As we say, pry has a large number of plugins because it's built to have plugins. And those are just a couple of them that I really find useful and nice. Just to mention, Pry Remote allows you, let's say, for example, you are not able to launch your Rails server by hand. For example, you're using Foreman or something, or using it with Apache Passenger, I don't know. This will open a port on your TCP socket on your computer, and you can connect to that and just have the wrapper like if it was there, without the need to launch it by itself. Then we all know that buyback has been introduced in Rails. So they come up with pry buyback that allows you to move through the stack of your program, so you can use up and down to follow the calls in the stack trace. Actually, buyback was the new version of Pry Stack Explorer that used to do this before having buyback. There are some incompatibilities with Pry Rescue that I love. So sometimes I need to switch to the oldest Pry Stack Explorer, but we are used to having compatibility between gems, especially when something new comes out. So we're used to that. Then we have priv inline that allows you to see the content of the variables without the need to query them. It will show when we see the source code in your shell that we are going to do it in a moment. It will show you the context of the value of the variables you're using, so you don't have to inquire them. So it's really nice. And PrioritizeQ allows you not to have the need to put the bidding.pry inside your code when you're checking for an exception. If you just use PrioritizeQ, whenever an exception comes, it will automatically open your the replo console there. So you will never forget bidding.pry inside your code, and that is really interesting. So I would show you a little demo. So I wrote a really simple, is readable enough? All right. I wrote a really simple program in Ruby that simulates an Hanoi tower and solves it. It's just a couple of files, also write a test, we will come to it later. But right now I wrote the demo. So the demo will just initialize an Hanoi tower, and we'll try to solve it. So we just call Ruby demo. And it's working because I forgot to unchange the code when I was doing my check. Sorry. So don't spot the bug right now that I'm putting in the code. All right. So we try to run our code, and we have an exception. So what will you do? You need to check where the problem is. So right now I see that the problem starts from Hanoi at line 15. So I go inside the code, I go to line 15, and I say, oh, here this exception is raising. So I want to try to check what is going on. I just put a binding.pry here, and I rerun the code. And right now, as you see, we have our program freezed exactly when I put my binding.pry. All right, and you see that those comments here are the one provided by pry inline. So I don't need to check what was from, what I was going to, and what I was going to do. So right now I see, all right, is my another thing that I would like to point is that you see here that we are inside Hanoi. Oh. Sorry. You can spot here that we are inside the Hanoi object. All right. This means that the code, where we put the bidding.pry, we are exactly inside the instance we have started in the demo file. All right, so we have access to all the methods, and also all the private methods from Hanoi. All right, so I need to find what is going on. So right now, stacks, from empty. It's not. All right, we have seen before that it was not the first iteration that was causing the problem. So we can just go with continue. And we need the second invocation of this one. So we can check again. Is the stack from empty? No, it's not. So again, continue. And then we have the stack is empty. That shouldn't be. So we have to understand what is going on. I have added to my Hanoi class the method display that allows me to see which is the situation of my towers. And I see that there's something on. By the way, all of you know what an Hanoi tower is. All right. Anyway, any number is the disk with the number, with the size of it. So you can put a lower number over a smaller one and stuff like that. So right now I see that there's something missing because I have 7, 6, 5, 4, but I lost the first, second, and the third disk. So there may be some error somewhere. So I get back to my code, and I can see the error that I insert a couple of seconds ago, that I have a double pop. So I am putting away one of the one of the disks. So I just changed this one from pop. I just take it because I know that I'm going to pop it later. So I can remove my binding, and I try to rerun it. All right. And I have another exception. So this time is in a different line. The exception is different. It says you cannot put the disk 1 from stack 3 to 2. And I check the status of the Hanoi Tower. I have a couple of lines before. And I want to move the disk 1 from stack 3 to the 2. So I should be able to do that because it's inside the rules of the project. So maybe there was another really stupid bug. And this is the check of the condition here. So we can just change it and go back. So right now, we can rerun our code, and everything is fine. You see that in the end, we have the correct solution. All right. I also write a little mini test file for this project. And it just does a couple of tests. So let's see if my test pass. So I go with Ruby. And I see that I have one failure. All right, but now I'm really tired to open the file, put a binding.pry. And so let's see if we can use pry rescue to do something better. So I go back to my, my project, and I require pry rescue mini test. It has a couple of bindings for different testing frameworks, so you may want to explore them. So, but, oh, sorry. Okay. So just adding this line, I'm actually using ProRescue. So right now, when I go inside another error, the wrapper should open automatically. All right. So I go with, again, Ruby test. And you see that I have the failure, but I have already the wrapper open there. So I can try to understand what is going on. And you see that here, I can type an ls to see everything that I have inside here. You see we have a lot of method coming from minitest that we don't care about. And we have all the instance variable. And we have our Hanoi that I initialized during the setup. So, but I don't remember what I was going to do. So again, where am I? And I can go back to my code. So maybe now, because we have the solution earlier, we have an error in our test. So we see that we have our Hanoi. Okay, that is in its original state. So I'm expecting that running the line 34 and running the line 36 will raise an exception. So I try to play the line 34. This will change my my Hanoi tower moving the first disk on the first stack on the second stack. All right, so far so good. Then I check. I expect to have an error running the line 36. But I'm not, because maybe when I wrote the test, I was doing the opposite. So where am I? The test title says that exception raised on a minor. So maybe I want to put the number 2 over the number 1. So what can I do now? We are dealing with the test exception raised on minor. I can use the edit command provided by Pry that opens my favorite terminal. You can, of course, customize that. And it opens exactly in the line. You see I'm already at line 33 where the method is. So I can go here, and I change the test to the correct form, which is 1, 2. All right? And then I exit my terminal. When I exit my terminal, Pry has already reloaded the code. All right, so I don't need to go outside and rerun the test to see if everything is working. I can just use try again. And right now you see that the last test that was failing has been run, and now I have 9 assertions, 0 failures, 0 errors, and 0 skips. What's so great about that? Actually, I find an error, I fix the error, and I rerun the test without leaving my first invocation of the test. That means for a project stupid like that, it really isn't a big problem, because it takes just a second to load everything. But think about a really large race project, all right? That every time you have to fire a console, it takes like 5 seconds. All these times will start to bother you really no time. So I've been able to run the test, have the repo open, change the code, no need to reload it, and try again the failing test and having all the tests passing without the need to put the binding.pry inside the code. And I think that it's pretty amazing. All right. Another thing that I really like to do, because I often find myself in the situation in which I have to work with code that has been written by someone else, and most of the time that code comes without any tests. So most of the time I need to write a lot of tests. And Andrea down there will be happy to hear that. And so sometimes I just initialize an empty test, like this one, opening and binding.pry. And I try to understand what I need to test right inside the repo. So right now, I can just rerun my Hanoi test. And I'm inside the test solution method. I haven't written any code yet, so we can do whatever we want. We know a little bit of the context, or we can check it with ls. So again, we have Hanoi here. So we want to test that the solve method actually solves our Hanoi tower. So we want probably to call Hanoi .solve. All right, then we can check our Hanoi again. So we see that we have everything in the third stack. So the check we are going to do is assert, assert, someone can help equal. Hanoi stacks 3. That should be equal to 3 down to 1 to A. And that's true. So that's a very simple test. I can do in no time. And I want to show you another thing that I have done with Pry to do this. So let's start again. I have 2 instructions I want to do. That is Hanoi.solve. And I just type insert last line. Then I have Hanoi, assert equal, insert last line. And that's it. And I go back to my code. And I have the 2 lines already here. All right. I spend a lot of time writing tests, and this is what I used to do most. So have a REPL, write test, and copy and paste the line I've just written. So I say maybe there's a better way to do this. So let's go back to our slides and see how you can extend Pre to your needs. All right. I didn't understand yet where I'm supposed to put all my pre-files. So right now I have everything in my prior C, in my home directory, but I mean, it's fine. You have one very simple way to define a block command in prior C that you just define a block command with the name, the description you want to have, and the body. You can either have also a couple of parameters to pass to the block, but I mean, it's not the case. I found myself a lot of time where I want to either have to the standard output the active record output, or just throw it away because it was too messy. So I wrote these 2 very simple methods because I will never remember how to write this line. And writing a record to stand out, or better, array, and typing tab a couple of times is really faster than have to remember that. But this may be not enough. Maybe you have to do something more powerful than that. And then pry command allows you to use the create command. The main difference between the block command we've seen earlier is that create command allows you to have an instance of the pry command class where you can use to store, and you have different callbacks inside the method. And I mean, you can do more than what you would do with a block command. So, all right. And then you can configure, of course, your editor, your preferred editor. And then here is my insert last line. Actually, that's nice to mention. I have no idea how to write a method or a command in pry. So I just start an empty command, and I add a binding.pry inside. So I try to call it and to see what was inside the pry command object when I was working on it. So basically, I won't bother you, but you may have a lot of different options. You have the setup that is called before your command gets execute. Then you have your process. It's a little bit complicated because it allows you to insert a number of lines. You can pass -n, I guess, parameters. I never use that, so I don't remember. But you can insert more than one line. You can eventually replace the line. But when you need to edit file, it's better to just do the less you can, so you're sure you're not messing anything. And that's it. Basically, this command will take the file in the setup part. All right, we have file and line. You see, we can store them as a class attributes, as an instance attribute inside the pry commands instance we will have. So we use the Ruby stuff for file and line. And then I will open the file. I will reach the place where I will reach the line. I will copy all of them. Then I will put the last line coming from the prehistory. And here there are all the stuff to take more than one line. I write them, and I run everything that is left in the file. And that's it. It's 80, 90 lines, but just because there are a couple of checks. But this thing really helps me when I have to write this kind of tests. All right. And another thing that that Christoph gave me the idea to do that is when you have to deal to something that is not under your control. I think that many of you are used to use RVM or stuff like that. So actually, your gems are writable from your user, so they are inside your own folder. So I was thinking, what would I have done if I was in Christoph's situation, having the open command that was doing something bad. So I just try, and I open pry, and I say, all right, show command open. Sorry. Show source. Disable. Show. I tried it a couple of seconds ago. Show method open. All right, I don't know what happened. Okay, I just checked the open method, and I see that it came from the io.c, that is a C binding. So by the way, you can see the C code. You can, of course, not change it at runtime, but you can access the code right there. But then I remember that to use what you were doing, you were using OpenURI. So I see, let's see, probably this is going to change something. So let's say I require OpenURI, and I can do the same thing. Show me the method open, and right now you see that it's a different method, and I can spot exactly where it is because I have the from, that time is from the openuri.erb file, and I can say, all right, open, let me edit open. And this is the method, and I reach there in like no time. And I see that the test Christoph was doing was the Google URL that is a string, so likely I'm going to fit into this, into the second if. So I can, and this is what really I found really interesting. I can put a binding.pry here, which is, I am actually changing the code that is in libruby 2.0 openruby.rb. I can go outside, I can rerun Ruby, I can require openuri, and if I run open http google.com, I have my binding.pry that is rising. And that means that you should not be afraid to read or change the code you are using, because first thing, they are inside your home directory and you can do it. So always remember to revert them or uninstall and reinstall the gem. But if you need to go really deep into some gem that maybe it's not very well documented, or I don't know, you don't really know what it does, remember that you can always do, you can just, as he was saying, you do a bundle open of the gem and put a binding.pry wherever you need. All right. So I have my binding.pry here. Now I'm not going through all the stuff 10 minuti, anche más. So basically, you are here, you are in the project running, and let me show you the help method. All right, help will show you a lot of the. Oh, I forgot to talk to you about WTF. Show you all the commands that are available to you. And then also there are all the commands that comes from external gems like pry bybug, pry rescue, pry stack explorer, and then the one that I defined in my prior C. All right. So we see that we have somewhere from bybug we have break, continue, finish, next, step. I won't make you all the example here, but basically you can set a breakpoint at runtime. So for example, if you have a listing of code that we call, I don't know, the first name method on the user, and you have your REPL, you can say break on user.firstname, and he will, let's say, put a hidden binding.pry there, so the next time you go through the code, you will have your REPL. And then you go, you can move with next, continue, and step. That, I mean, I guess most of you know what they do, and if not, you can just check it really in no time. Okay, so for example here, that I don't remember where I am, you can go, I want to see what is URI open. So open is a method of the object URI. I don't really care what we are speaking about. I can just cd into URI. And I see that URI is an instance of URI HTTP. So I can use, again, ls and see all the commands for this method. So I may want to do show method because I'm calling URI.open, so show me the method open. All right, and it showed me that it's a call to open URI, open URI. And again, I can cd open URI. And I can see all the method itself because it's a class method, so I can show method. Because you see that this time, know the difference between the line 6, where you have the hashtag symbol. That means that you are inside an instance of that class, while on the line 8, we are inside OpenURI with no hashtag, so that means we are at the class level of it. So I can see the class method. So I can show method OpenURI. And I have all the code right here that is pretty long, so I can call, again, edit, if I need. And this is really a quick way to move around the source code, to read the documentation, and to understand where you are supposed to put your hands to fix problem, or maybe you are doing the wrong thing, passing the wrong parameters to the library you're using. So this is a very fast way to do it. I found myself a lot of times when we have some problem in our code that we wasn't able to understand why, because everything on our side looks fine. So I just put a bunch of binding.pry inside the library we were using, and I was checking all the, most of the time was just a problem in the parameters that was passed to those libraries because we were using in the wrong way. And actually, I find this faster than try to find the documentation of that library. All right, so that's it for our OpenURI. By the way, we are inside OpenURI, so we can do the cd.dos, and we go back wherever it was. So again, inside the binding.pry. I have been partially inspired to this talk by Irwin Cornad, that is one of the maintainers of the Pry project. And he had done a couple of really interesting talks, so if you're interested in Pry or in Pry stuff, there are a lot of very nice talk by him. And one of the things that he always say is that you have three possibilities when you have to understand what you're doing. That is, run the code, read the code, and understand the code. All right, but how much time does it take? And it's a problem because running the code takes seconds. I mean, you have your REPL there, you have your variable, you can just call the method. It's really a matter of no time. Reading the code, it may take minutes because you have to find it, you have to go, you have to read, you have to understand in how many different files all the relevant source code is split. So yeah, it may take a lot of time. And then understand the code takes weeks, life. I mean, I think that no one actually knows everything that Ruby on Rails does, for example. I mean, it's a pretty huge framework. So running the code is by far the fastest way to check your code. In any condition, whatever you're doing a test, whatever you're just trying to play with a new library. And Pry really, really, really helps you to do that. So when I was preparing this talk, one of the things that you can find for the people that teach people to have talks is that you have to have one big message, one big thing to give to the audience, and is use Pry. You won't regret it. If you don't use it, if you don't take advantage of it, it doesn't change anything because it's like having IRB, but at least it's more colorful. But it can really change your life, especially if you, like me, work a lot in debugging and fixing code, and most of the time it's not my code. And that's it.